It's a really important video that I'm making here today. And I feel very passionate about it. And I feel that it is meant to be, and I'm meant to share this. Um, and I want you to be able to see this because today is a gift. Every day that we are above the earth is a gift. And this is about children, the children that are not here anymore, children like my daughter. And yesterday, through different circumstances, I had a chance to watch CBS this Sunday morning. It is my favorite show, but it comes at the time when, I happen to be at services. But yesterday, I was home and one of the segments spoke loudly to me. And I'm sure that's why my schedule changed and I had the opportunity to watch this. And they talked about the school shootings, which is so timely this week. And there's a documentary being made where a famous portrait photographer is going and documenting the bedrooms of the children that have been victims of school shootings and their families. And I felt that I must speak out and tell my story because it triggered so many things with me as I watched it. First of all, I felt every moment of those parents' pain. I could totally understand what they were going through and that the immense highs and lows and just emotional feelings that come over you at all different times in all different ways. And their stories were so poignant, but what spoke out to me right at the beginning was when they went to one of the parents and their daughter was a victim of excuse me, I don't like this lipstick like this, Uvalde shooting, 9-year-old Jackie, and her parents, Javier and Gloria, and how brave all these parents are talking and how unique, I want to tell you how unique this is that these parents are together because so many people don't survive the death of one of their children. It doesn't matter by what it could be, a car accident, cancer, whatever, but a spontaneous murder, senseless death is so traumatizing. And many of us have experienced a suicidal death, and that has an element of that type of trauma. And they said they were thanking them for coming forward and telling their story. And they said so many parents come up to them and say, "Well, we just can't imagine what this is like." And their response was so profound. They need to imagine. We need to show them so people can imagine what this is like because this is not okay. This is not normal. Other countries do not have this happening in their country, and we're doing nothing about it. Nothing. We're banning books. We're not banning guns. I mean, it's just insane. But I want to tell my story because my story is different. And I wonder what happened to some of these other parents because these parents were together and they have that sacred room. They showed and documented their bedroom where they left that morning for school with nothing touched, the toothpaste with the cap still not screwed on, and dirty clothes on the floor. And some kids were really messy, and some kids were very neat. And all of their things that meant so much to them leaving for school that morning, not thinking that they would ever return. And what a sacred altar and space that is in the parents' home. And I know for me, it's like sometimes you want to gravitate in there, gravitate to their belongings to feel a sense of that person. And sometimes you want to grieve, and sometimes it brings you joy when you stumble upon something. But my story is very different. I'm sorry, you can hear it in my voice. It triggered so many things in me because they have their room. And I can imagine what's if you had to move, or what's if you want to move, but don't want to move because that is where your child grew up to the years that you have them. One parent said, I thought it was so beautiful. It was their only daughter, their youngest child. So she had three brothers. And they said, we were so grateful to have a girl, even if it was for 9 years. I mean, look at the high road and the work and the healing and the trauma that these parents had done. But these parents were together and they had each other. What about all those parents that are separated, divorced? What's if it's a high conflict divorce? And that's part of my story. And I'm going to be really raw here because people need to understand. And my story is from a long time ago. We didn't have the internet, we didn't have cell phones. And so the times were different. But I got called to my former husband's home, and we had a very high conflict divorce. And my daughter was staying there more, 15 years old, brilliant, conflicted type of a child that we'd worked with for a long time. And and she had taken her life. So I get there and there's yellow tape all around. The police tell me, don't make trouble. Don't make trouble. My former husband had a fairly prestigious job in our small town ish, high level small town in Florida. And so we're waiting there, and it was very uncomfortable. And I finally see my daughter being wheeled out in a body bag. I couldn't watch a lot of TV shows for a long time. Do you realize how violent so many of our TV shows are? And body bags are everywhere, or even on the news, etc. And my daughter had hung herself in his home while he's home. So, how are you, as separated parents? You have to give up your children to go visit, to feel like they're going to be safe, to feel if they're going to be taken care of. My former husband had this was so high conflict, and I've written an international best-selling book about it, just a compilation story. So it's in with other stories, but we are international authors, best-selling authors. And she had actually run away from his home, and this man didn't even have the nerve to call me and tell me that our daughter was missing. No. And then hung herself in his house while he was home. I'm being really raw. I've been quiet and not wanting to hurt my other daughter, who is now 40. And so she's a big girl. And these things need to be said because people don't know our stories. And I've worked with parental alienation. I've been an international speaker on parental alienation and what's behind when you have a death by suicide. No one talks about us and all the ripple effect. And I do want to point out something, even from the CBS. It was so well done. This is my favorite show, and that documentary is going to be very, very important. But this needs to be real and honest, and people really need to understand what's happening to our children. It's our children I'm concerned about. We need to save our children. Mothers have reached out to me with their child taking their life at 12 years old when they were the best in class, a soccer star. What? We can't wrap our only child, wrap our heads around this. Right? And here are these beautiful children being gunned down in school. I'm a former teacher, and the teachers having to feel like their life could be at stake being a teacher, to teach our children. We don't value our children enough. I know I'm going a little bit on a tangent, but this is really, really important. I've lived in other countries. They value their children. They nurture them. They love them. They want to protect them. They want to keep them safe more than shooting a deer and eight and these rifles being available uh, to anyone. Okay, so here's my journey. I don't have that room. And my former husband actually called his friend's wife and asked her, because these are my traumas. I have closure with my daughter's death, but these traumas live with me and get triggered. And I've worked hard to release them. I've done a ton of work on trauma. I help other people with trauma. Been working on healing over 20 years. But this doesn't go away. We're never the same. She came out of my body. Part of me is gone. There's cells that are connected between mothers and children and grandmothers and grandchildren. We have cellular feeling and structures when you start studying holistically energy work and called he called someone else to go through my daughter's things that I even have given her, things that might have meant something special to me. He had somebody else go through my daughter's belongings and left me out. That's the kind of person that I was married to. Not only that, when that happened, some of my daughter's friends called me and said, Mrs. Tina, we want you to know that Erin's things have all been put on the street. Like he just dumped her things on the sidewalk, and children were coming all around to pilfer her things, her stuffed animals, a piece of her put on I was going to say a bad word, put on the street for anybody to pick up. Like she didn't matter, like it wasn't important. I went ballistic. So, not to say that being in that space, being so emotionally bereft and grief, I went ballistic. How dare somebody come in? I couldn't do that to another mother. I could never do that. I would say, I can come and sit with your former wife while she goes through this. I would never take that away from another mother. Never. I can't even imagine. And I thought these were sort of good people, but I can't imagine being asked to do that and actually doing that. So don't ever do that to somebody. I know sometimes we think we want to help, but I mean, I was robbed. So you know what I got? I got the things out of her locker from school. And I found one folder that she had done all these special drawings on about herself that meant so much to me. So I had basically a box of things. Those are painful things that we go through in after death of a child. So much stuff. I mean, we have it with anyone we lose that we love, but a child's death is somewhat different. And my former husband cleaned out her room, painted it within 2 weeks. So while I was watching these people and these fathers that honored their daughter and kept that, I don't know if that's really completely healthy. And everyone grieves differently. And that's what I was told. Well, men grieve differently. But after watching this beautiful segment, and I'm going to put the link there for you, I was just so impressed as couples and how well spoken they are. And those, some of them were from Parkland down the street from me. I just felt what a nobody wants to go through this in their life. Nobody can imagine this, but it's become common. We've normalized this as along with so much that we've normalized in our country. And I have to speak out. But there are so many separated people and parents. So do you have two rooms, one in the former husband and former wife? You have two of your child's things everywhere and two rooms kept. Do you come back and communicate if you are separated and lost the child that you both created and loved? No one's talking about the couples that are separated. And we know today that is very, very high statistics of that. So I applaud that these people were in their same home, that they love and care about each other and kept each other going through the situation. And, you know, granted, my death was different, but it's still a tragic, unsuspecting dramatic death with the same, there's trailing things of no answers. So when you have someone taking their life, we're left so much with why, what did I miss, what could I looked for, you know, and a tragic murder, why, who was this person, what was going on, why, you know, There's just so much more attached to it. And another point that was in this piece that I thought was really um, important, because when you've gone through this, I see it with different eyes. I have a different set of glasses, a different perspective, because I've lived it for over 20 years. Um, is Now I forgot my sorry. Um, it'll come back. But I wanted to say, so I was left with a couple of boxes, and I've moved several times and keep downsizing, and it gets this last year I gave away all the letters. I went through every letter and card that was given to me when she died, and um, I I was able to let that go. And then a dress, her first communion dress. She loved that dress. She picked it out. It was a totally different style than what I would have thought. Um, it, they were collecting one of my coworkers was Haitian in West Palm Beach, and she was making a trip to Haiti, and there had been a lot of disaster going on at that time. And I thought, oh, some little girl, and that's a Catholic state, that country, some little girl would just this would be such a dream for them to have this first communion dress. What a gift. I can give that away now. I can let it go. And I know Aaron would just be happy that someone else had that. So each time, but I'm down really with a box. And my circumstance too, I look at people, I think in that kind of a death too, people come and rally around you, support you, and you have a lot of community. The kind of death I had was a little bit different. Um, and I even had a sister that said, "Can you please pretend that your daughter didn't die because I don't want to tell my children?" Yeah, yeah, that's what I had to contend with. And I was so grateful that one of my neighbors rallied the other neighbors and put a public bench on a pond that was right by our house to have a memorial. And my sister had actually been living in California and had come into our area. And I wanted to show my family the bench. And my parents don't live there either. And I'm like, so let's drive by the bench. So we drove by the bench, and my sister's telling me to be quiet and don't say anything because she didn't want her children in the car to know that that bench was for my daughter. We didn't go there and all get to sit there and commemorate together my child. That's the kind of situation I was put in. Now, I have learned and am a big believer that we have a destiny. I believe my daughter's destiny was done at that time, and she passed me a baton. And that's why I'm speaking out, because my baton is to talk about the reality of taking your life, the reality of everyone else left behind. And now I remember what I was going to say. And I always talk about this. I talk about the collateral damage, but all the lives that are affected. And so in this piece from CBS Sunday Morning, one of the commentators or professionals said, this isn't about X number of kids. This is about hundreds of people, because this affects the aunts, the uncles, the teachers, the coaches, all the peer group. All of those children have been traumatized at this point in their life for the rest of their life. All the grandparents, all the siblings. I know that for us, I she had barely gotten to see a therapist. My former husband again blocked. I got her court ordered for therapy. My former husband blocked her from going to therapy and told her she doesn't have to say anything. And finally, towards the end, she did have 4 sessions. But how did that affect that therapist that never lost a child, that was revered for juvenile therapy? It affects so many people in so many ways. And it wasn't until years later that I thought about those types of people that were helping me work with my child to have her more balanced. So I have to speak out, and I speak this out in the name of my child because, again, I believe this death happened to create a difference and to be able to speak out. And I have to tell you that I'm sort of shunned from my family. I've had to make serious choices about whether to speak out, to tell my story. I haven't been this raw on my former husband before, but those are facts. You can look them up. They're facts. I'm not making anything up, but this is what my truth is, what I've had to deal with. And I can't imagine how many other former spouses, men or women, have been in these situations. Maybe their child even died from cancer or a car accident. But if you're not together, the impact is much, much worse for us, you know? And I'm grateful so much that I have a bench. And it's about a couple of hours away from me now. And I go there and I have solace. And sometimes I just wanted to sleep on that bench. I just wanted to lay there on that park all night and just to feel my daughter's feelings, like they talked about going in the room and feeling her energy. Thank you so much for listening to me. I hope this makes an impact. And let's do something. We all want hunters and people want to have guns, but we are out of control. And there's no reason to have the kind of weapons that we have to be scared to send our children to school. And I'm going to end with that. Take some action. Please have a voice. Make this go viral. Make people feel what this feels like. And that is my intention today. Thank you.